We have this model here that has a main running down here, and it's sloped down from right to left on the screen. And the beams are sloped from left to right up. So what we want to do is we want to find out what the elevation of the bottom of that pipe is, where it is on top of that grid. So we can get a better shot at it, we're going to go back to a wireframe mode now, and we're going to use the Plumb Point tool. So when we select it, it wants to know the first object line. Normally we use this for clearance, but it doesn't make any difference. So we'll go nearest to this grid line and pick another point that's nearest on the grid line here. Alright, now the second line is going to be the lower quadrant of the pipe. If we want this to be give you the bottom of pipe elevations. We'll pick this one here, and then we'll go to the other end. I removed the coupling just so you can see it. I don't really have to, but then we're going to go down here and pick this lower bottom of the pipe, and we want to install point. So we're going to hit point. Okay, the first line was a grid line. We don't really need a node there, so we'll uncheck that. The second line was going to be the one on the pipe. So we're going to install that. It says one node was installed. So in order to find it, it's going to be easiest for it to look on the top. And the top where that grid line crossed is going to be right here. So let's take a look at this. And when we roll it up, I'm going to shade it so you can see it. It's right where that square is. I've made these a square so you can see them. So when I come out, we'll look underneath, and sure enough, there's where the node is. So when I want to find out what is the elevation of that, I can just hit the ID point, and that's this one right here. Excuse me, ID of the node. And that tells me right there. This is my XY coordinates, but what we really want is a Z. So where that crosses that grid line there is 17 foot 10 and a half. So you could do that along each one of these, or you could copy it. Either way, it doesn't make any difference. But that's how easy it would be to do it. Hope that helped you out. I have one other thing to show you here. This is the line we're looking at that has the node on the bottom of the pipe, which I gave you the distance off of the floor or the grid. But sometimes if you're in a spot where you can't get to the floor and you don't really know what this curb height or this pad height is, you can't always tell. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to move this origin point here to the pad itself. Now when I check the ID right here, I'm going to get it off the pad height. And you can see that's 16 foot 3. And if I go back, the one that's going to be on your drawing is going to be off the finished floor. In your case, I think you guys call it the platform. So that's 17 foot 10 is what your drawing would say. And what you'd be really referencing off of this point would be 16 foot 3. We did all that without any math or having to add it, or without getting the engineer's drawing out. So that's another thing you can do if you had access to it in the field. And we have the building here. You can see we have the structure. We have this combination here, and it's going to hook up to this elbow that's on this roof drain. The roof drain's at the right elevation, but the elbow isn't, and neither is the combination. So we're going to use the Plumb Point tool again to help us out. Okay, so first thing we want to do is the first object to provide clearance with is going to be this beam. Now this beam is sloped from this direction, from the right to left, is going up. So we'll need to pick a line that's on the beam here, which we're going to pick this bottom flange because that's going to be where the highest point of the pipe will be. And then we'll just pick another line any place on it. Doesn't make any difference as long as it's on that bottom flange to define the flange. Now the reference point to move, this is not rotated at any particular angle. So there's a node right here in the inlet of the pipe, and there's another node back here at the focal point. So we're going to use that point to define the line of the pipe. And then it wants to know what what we're going to do with it. So we're going to move this object. So we'll hit enter to move, and it's going to be the combination. All right, and then what we want to do is the top quadrant of this combination is what we want to move, which is right here, and that will we're going to put this along the first line. That's along the line of the structure, and that will move this combination up. Okay, so right now this combination is level with this top of this flange of the beam. Okay, and it says that right here at the very lower left of the command line. You can see they're level. Okay, so we want the combination lower than the beam flange. So we just type a minus key on the keyboard, and you can see the combination is going to go down. And if you look down here, you can see that it's going to give us what that did. It moved that down 10 5/16 from this intersection, or from this flange, which means the pipe would just touch it. So in order to provide more clearance, I just type it on my keyboard. So if I want 2 inches for fireproofing, I hit -2. And you'll see it'll move down and give me the, now it's going to give me the total distance. It's 1 foot and 5/16 of an inch. So if I need more, I need 1 inch and 5/8. I hit -1 and 5/8 inches, and I'll come down, and it's going to keep a running total down here for me. And then when I'm done, I'm just going to hit exit to enter it. Now this elbow is not at the right elevation. I want to slope this now. The pipe, this is going to make the pipe with clearance, so I just going to need to even these guys up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other tools, change elevation by distance, and I'm going to select this elbow right here, and in this case I'm going to pick its center line, or I could pick its node since I have that picked. It has a node on the face of the fitting, and I want it to I want to point it with this node right here in the face of this one. Okay. So right now it's nowhere, and I want this elbow to be up from the combination. So I'm just going to type a plus. That'll move it up in auto slope, which is actually going to move it down on the drawing. And I'm going to leave it right there because it's lined up. It's behind the beam, and we'll see what that looks like once we get. Alright, I installed the pipe there. You can see it a little bit better now. There's the elbow that we dropped right down here on the right hand side of the screen. There's the combination we hooked it up to. And if we drop down here, we could see that we just got ourselves some clearance underneath that beam. That was a controlling beam that was we needed. If I go over here on a couple elevation views, you can see there's the pipe we just put in. It runs at an angle. This is the one with the node on it. Let's see what we have here. The back view, you can see this is where it came underneath, but you can see that there's your drain right there. You can see that this steel slopes up this direction and the pipe goes in the other direction. But nonetheless, the tool found the spot for you and dropped it right underneath by the specified amount that we wanted. If you needed to know where that was in the grid line, you could just follow the example I gave you earlier, and you could figure out if any point that intersects any other point on the in the drawing. So I hope that helps you out with what you were asking about.